What's going on, everyone? Good morning. My name is Osman. Welcome back to Falcon 4.0 Allied Force. We just finished mission 10, which was basically instrument landing. Which was basically instrument landing, so ILS approach and stuff like that. Now we're going to do the last landing tutorial or mission, which is mission 11 or Flameout landing. So it says. So a flameout landing is basically where you lose your engine. It's pretty rare, but it does happen unless you have battle damage. So it says, picture this. You're flying home from a successful mission. You have long since forgotten about that pesky warning from the jet's voice warning system, when suddenly you notice that things are getting very quiet. You're shocked to notice that the motor is not, well, motoring, or the engine. You are a glider. Your heart sinks into your stomach as you realize that you should have paid attention to that fuel low warning. Yeah. Your only options now are to jump out or crash, right? Wrong. Depending on your altitude, you may be in a position to make a flameout landing on a nearby runway. The F-16 can land without the engine if you are within gliding range of a suitable airfield. This type of landing in a jet is frequently called a, quote, dead stick landing. But it is not an accurate term for the F-16 because you must have electrical power to land the aircraft. The FOCS, or flight control computer, so the flight control system, it's not the flight control computer system, it's just flight control system, needs power along with the hydraulic/electric servo actuators that move the flight control surfaces. The hydraulic power that you need to make a flameout landing comes from the EPU, or emergency power unit. The EPU is a generator that produces both electrical and hydraulic power when the engine fails. What all this mumbo jumbo means is that the stick is not really dead. However, the EPU has only a limited amount of its own fuel, so you make all haste to get on the ground. And by the way, the EPU can use either air or bleed air from the engine or like hydrogen fuel. But when you have a flameout, it's going to use hydrogen. You have about 10 minutes or 11 minutes of hydrogen fuel. Since Falcon Allied Force provides very accurate flight modeling, it is possible to make a flameout landing, just like in the real jet. How well does the F-16 glide? Like a brick. Actually, like a brick with wings. The wings help cushion your fall somewhat, but the only way now is down. The F-16-1 manual says the F-16 will go 7 nautical miles over the ground for every 5,000 feet of altitude you lose. This is in theory anyway. This makes gliding calculations hard for most fighter pilots. So figure 1 for 1. To see how far you can glide, just take your altitude in thousands of feet and convert it to miles, and that is how far you can go. For example, if you are 20,000 feet up, you can glide 20 miles. So, I believe it's 1,000 feet for nautical. No, I'm not sure what the conversion is, but it's like 1,000 feet for nautical miles, something like that. No, I don't remember, to be honest. So you're 20,000 feet, you can glide 20 miles. This number is only good if you fly 6 degrees angle of attack, which is your best glide angle. So you need to remember that. This angle of attack can be achieved by flying at approximately 210 knots, so remember that, plus 4 knots per 1,000 pounds of gas and external stores with the gear up. So basically what that means is, if you have, depending on your weight, how much fuel you have left on board. If you have a lot of fuel on board, you're going to be heavier than if you have less fuel on board. So if you have zero fuel, if you run out of fuel, then this 1,000 pounds of gas thing, this 4 knots, is not applied. But if you have, let's say, 1,000 pounds of fuel left when the engine dies, then you need to fly at 210 knots plus 4 knots. So it would be 214 knots if you have 1,000 pounds of gas left in the tank total. But if you have zero, it's just 210. If you lose an engine, you should jettison your external stores immediately. If you can't make the fuel calculations in your head, just fly 210 to 220 knots. That's kind of it really shouldn't have a minus symbol. It should have a like the word 2, because it would make it easier to understand. So 210 to 220 knots. That will put you close enough to 6 degrees angle of attack with the gear up. With the gear down, this airspeed changes to 200 knots. So landing is, let's see, do they have, they don't show figure 1-1, 11-1. So this is figure 11-1. So basically this is your AOA. This is 5 degrees. And this is basically like 5, 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is here, so you want to be about 6 here. Landing is the next step. And it's really just about the same as a normal landing, except for a glide path. A normal glide path is 2 degrees to 3 degrees, while Flameout glide path is 11 degrees to 17 degrees, as seen in figure 11-2. So 11-2 is here. Fly the jet on this glide path to maintain the proper airspeed throughout the approach and landing. Because of your steep approach and lack of thrust, you would need the increased airspeed to execute a flare and slow your descent rate. Remember that our normal flare for landing is at approximately 11 degrees angle of attack, whereas this flare for a flameout landing starts at 6 degrees angle of attack. Since this is a 50 knot airspeed difference, it takes some practice. Right, so this is figure 11-2. So basically what they're saying is the normal 3 degree glide slope is here when you have an engine, right? So it's a 3 degree glide slope all the way down to the runway with like, 11 degrees AOA. But if you have a flameout landing, it's 7 degrees to 17 degrees glide path window. So basically what they're saying is, like, when you have an engine, your 3 degree glide slope is here, and you have the normal flare for landing is at approximately 11 degrees AOA. So when you flare, you'll be at like 11 degrees. When you start your flare, you'll start your flare at 11 degrees AOA with a normal landing. However, if you have a flameout landing, you don't want your AOA at 11 degrees from the start, because you'll just stall. You'll lose a lot of airspeed doing that. So you need to have it less. So you need to have the nose down to the ground a little bit more, so you can keep that airspeed, so that, you know, when you are at flare height, you can go from 6 degrees to, you know, whatever you need to flare. So flameout glide path window, 7 to 17 degrees. This would be if you're higher up. If you're lower, well, it really depends, like, your altitude and stuff, but you have to judge it based on your altitude. And again, this stuff here basically says that, like, that you need to fly at, a certain speed constantly in order to not stall the jet and, you know, achieve the proper glide path to achieve the longest distance you can with no engine based on your altitude. Training mission overview. You will practice landing with a flamed out engine. Initial conditions. Airspeed 250 knots. Altitude 10,000 feet AGO, above ground level. Throttle setting, idle. Engine is flamed out. Configuration, wing tanks, Mark 82 bombs, and out of gas. So we have external fuel bags on. We have Mark 82 bombs, and, you know, we're out of gas. So, you know, position from the runway, 10 nautical miles out, 10,000 feet on the runway center line. So figure 11-3. So basically all this shows is, honestly, I think this is just a copy image from the last mission. But all this is showing is the gear handle and your configuration that you need initially. Mission description. You will start at 10,000 feet with the runway 10 miles on your nose. The jet will be out of gas and the engine will be flamed out. You will hear a caution, caution call shortly from the voice message system. Press the master caution button to acknowledge the warning. Furthermore, the HUD displays a flickering fuel warning message. Eventually, you will also hear an ongoing warning call from the VMS. Press the warn reset button below the drift cutout switch, or press Ctrl Alt Shift Whiskey to turn off the warning. I'm not going to do that honestly because I'm actually enjoy that. I actually enjoy the warning. Perform the following steps to fly a Flameout approach. Step 1. Load training mission 11, Flameout landing, from the training section. Step 2. Jettison all of your external stores by pressing Control Juliet or by pressing the Stores Jettison button next to the landing gear lights, figure 11-3. So right here. Once the stores are gone, step 3, once the stores are gone, check your angle of attack gauge and fly 6 degrees angle of attack, approximately 210 knots. Remember, the only way you can speed up or slow down the jet is with pitch. If your angle of attack is too high, which means you are too slow, push the nose down to speed up. If the angle of attack is too low, you are too fast, pull the nose up to slow down. Step 4, find the runway out on the horizon. Fly 210 knots toward the runway and note your glide path. In order to keep your airspeed at 210 knots, you need to be in a shallow dive, meaning you don't want to be like with a high angle of attack with the nose up. If this dive is between 11 to 17 degrees, then you have enough energy, altitude, and airspeed to make a Flameout landing. If you are less than 11 degrees, you may make the runway. At glide paths of less than 11 degrees, it depends on the winds and just how far below 11 degrees you are. So you don't want the degrees to be too high, but you also don't want it to be too low, because you might actually miss the runway. You'll be too low. You actually get too low. How do you know what glide path you're on? Oh, by the way, before I continue, if you're wondering why, 10,000 feet AGL would work with 10 nautical miles out, it's just the calculation up here. If you're 20,000 feet up, you can glide 20 miles. So 10,000 feet up, you can glide 10 miles, and the runway is 10 nautical miles out, so it's perfect. How do you know what glide path you're on? The best way is to know the position of the flight path marker on the HUD pitch lines. When the flight path marker is on the near end of the runway, you can read your glide path on the pitch lines. For example, if the flight path marker is on the -5 degree line, you want a 5 degree glide path. Figure 11-4 shows the jet close to an 11 degree Flameout approach. So figure 11-4 here. So as you can see, it's almost 11 degrees on a Flameout approach. So you can see his speed's really high. He's actually way too fast for this, I would think. But you can see here, the flight path marker's on the runway at least. So at least he would make the runway, but he would be way too fast. He would need to put on his speed brakes and shit, when he gets closer. But yeah, so yeah, he's close to 11 degrees. Close to 10 degrees actually. Step 5. Make a small bank angle changes to align your flight path straight down the runway. Once you have everything under control, press Tango to talk to the tower. Declare an emergency landing by pressing 3. Remember that you should always fly the jet first and talk on the radio second. Repeat the mantra: aviate, navigate, radiate. Often, meaning... it should be... communicate. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Often, meaning fly first and foremost. Know where you are second and talk about it last. The tower does not have a sky hook that they can use to lower you to the ground safely. They're just sitting in an air-conditioned comfort, drinking coffee, listening sympathetically to your problems. You have to fly the jet, so if you don't have time to talk to them, don't. Step 7. Assuming that you are between 11 degrees and 17 degrees, keep the flight path marker on the runway. If the airspeed starts to build above 210 to 220 knots, or your angle of attack gets below 6 degrees, so 5 or 4 or something like that, drop the landing gear by pressing Control Alt Shift Gulf. And so this is your alternate gear handle. Because it says, as you probably don't have the hydraulic pressure for normal deployment. If you are holding the correct angle of attack, wait and put the landing gear down at 2,000 feet. With only limited hydraulic power, you won't be able to retract the gear, so leave it until you are confident to reach the runway. Deployed gear increases drag and thus reduces speed. Very important. Remember that if you're going too fast, you can extend the speed brakes by pressing Bravo. Just don't forget they are out if you get too slow. Step 8. Keep the flight path marker pointing at the threshold until you get to 500 feet. At 500 feet, make sure that your landing gear is down and locked. Shift your aim point down the runway and start a flare. On a flameout landing, you will probably land long. Don't worry about it. Step 9. Once you touch down and hear the tires screech on the runway, gently pull the gun cross up above the 10-degree pitch line on the hood to air brake the aircraft. In the F-16, the body of the aircraft uses a giant speed brake to help slow the jet down. The gun cross is used as a pitch reference during the aero brake because the flight path marker gets unreliable once you touch down on the runway. When the jet finally slows up below about 100 knots, the nose will fall through to the runway. Again, be sure the throttle is on idle all the way back, since your engine will not always flame out in the exact right spot for 11 to 17 degrees, 210 knot glide path. Figure 11-5. Step 10. If you make this, then just stop where you can and get yourself several cold ones at the O Club. Here's some suggestions for making the runway. If the runway is rising in your hood and your airspeed is bleeding off, you will not make it to the runway. So that's very important because, like, if your runway is starting going up on your hood and your airspeed is lowering, you're not going to make it. You need to eject. Another thing is it will take you about 7,000 feet of altitude to execute a 360-degree turn. If you are high and have an extra 7,000 feet, then do a descending 360-degree turn. If you are high, above the 11 to 17 degree glide path, but not high enough to do a 360-degree turn, use the speed brakes and a series of S-turns back and forth to get down to the proper 11 to 17 degree glide path. Always remember, it's easy to lose speed and height. Gaining it is not. Error on the side of too high and too fast. It's better to run off the end of the runway at 40 knots than miss the start of the runway at 160 knots. War story. Oh, this will be interesting. The F5 has twin engines and fire warning lights for each of them. When the temperature in the engine goes out of control, the fire light comes on. You never see this in normal life, and you never want to see it either. It's a serious emergency when it happens. It has caps. Throttle idle. Throttle off if fire light remains on. Eject if fire remains. It was a cloudy day, but we knew that above 10,000 feet it would be clear. A 2 versus 2 duct ride, I'm not sure what that is, was my favorite those days. We took off in formation and came out of the clouds. Lead sent us to line abreast, which is a formation type, 1.5 nautical miles. So they were spaced 1.5 nautical miles away from each other in line abreast formation. The jet was trimmed up and everything was okay. I was checking lead 6 visually, but I remember the instructor's comment, quote, "If everything feels okay, there is something wrong, so check everything again." I looked inside the cockpit, saw a red light, looked outside again and said to myself, wait a second, did I see a red light there? Looked inside again, there it was, left fire, oh god. I did the caps. Throttle to idle, the light stayed on. Throttle off, light went out. I shut down the left engine quickly and started to turn back. I called on the radio, knock it off, number 2, left engine fire, shut down engine, turning back. Knock it off is a procedure term for, or a brevity term, so basically sees what you're doing immediately, and, because, there's something wrong, or, there's something I need to say, or whatever. The light was off, so I sat back and relaxed. I had one more engine, everything looked fine. I checked the TACAN, 45 nautical miles to go. I did a descent calculation, put flight path marker to descent, or feet per minute to descent. Whoa, what was my unlucky day? Whoa, that was my unlucky day. I said to myself with a smiling face while I checked off the checklist items. Coming down to 10,000 feet, I started to fly on instrument because of the IMC. Oh god, that's even worse. The right fire light blinked once. I said, oh no, I was so full of adrenaline I knew I must calm down. It blinked again and I stared. God no, you have got to be kidding me. I began to lose my self-confidence. Had I misjudged the fire light and shut down the wrong engine? No, it can't be, I said to myself. I started to pull the right throttle back. The light turned off at 85% RPM. On single engine with limited thrust, I glided down to the runway. I landed with no problem, but without the utility hydraulics. Whew, a good day after all, I thought. After inspection, it turned out that a light circuit had a problem. The fire lights were false. Some people thought it was funny. I almost bailed out. I never got the joke. Yeah, that's not funny at all. God. So he shut down... Oh, God, that's horrible. He shut down his engine when it was fine. The engines were fine, and... Oh, shit. That sucks. Alright, so that's it for Mission 11 in the theory. So now we're going to get into Falcon 4.0 Allied Force, and We're gonna get into Falcon 4.0 Allied Force and continue on. Alright, we're in the sim. No blackout, no collisions. Yep, everything looks good. Get a drink first. Alright. Alright, training. Step 11, Flameout landing. I did this before a long time ago. Like, you know, back in 2011 or whatever. And I did it a couple times. You need to know how to safely put your jet back on the ground even after you've lost your engine. This is a balancing act between airspeed and altitude. Alright, so we are 10 nautical miles out. We are in Delta Block 52. Munitions, as you see here. We can't change it, that's awesome. Alright, so that's what we got. Alright, let's do it. One thing it didn't say in there that you need to check is that your EPU is on. You need to check that your EPU is running. And it has a green light on. Alright, so I'll show you what to do here. So there's no need to use a throttle, you just use your stick because, you know, you don't have an engine. There you go. Right, so first thing you're going to do is dip the nose. Right, so master caution, hit that. Right, so engine full. So what I'm going to do is turn this on. EPU is running. Well, I don't know why it says air and hydrazine. It should just be hydrazine. So EPU on, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do is just turn the landing light on and then try to achieve the glide path I need. So right now we're too high. So we need to be 210 knots, remember? So you can see we're about 213, 210 knots right now. So we're 7,000 feet up. We need to be like, you know, 6 degrees or 11 degrees or whatever it was. I don't really remember, to be honest, what it was. We need to be like 6 degrees angle of attack. But we're going to wait to put our gear down to 2,000 feet. But as you can see, we have no engine. And actually, we need to jettison our stores. So, jettison. Press and hold. And then go Cat 1. Because you are... you now need as much maneuverability as you can. And then we're getting too fast, so now put the speed brakes out. If you can. But just be careful because, you know, we'll land on the left runway. And we can put our gear down now because we're reaching 2,000 feet. So this is not going to work. So we need to do our alternate gear handle, this. There we go. So speed brakes in. Because we need as much as we can. So our gear's down, so what we need to do is lower these sync rate a bit. And now we need to be careful. So now we're getting slow. So we might not actually make this. Fuck. I might have screwed up here. Yeah. Oh, what the hell? What was that? That's weird. Yeah, I'm not gonna make this. I didn't make it. Fuck. I'm a crash. Oh, damn. I didn't know it actually broke the jet completely like that. Hey, you can see the radar. Pilot's dead. Damn it. Right, let's try. Let's try again.
Bingo. Altitude.
Reason I crashed is because I likely did not turn on my jettison my stores. So I'm gonna jettison my stores first because I almost forgot to do that. So do that. All right, stores are jettisoned. EPU on, good, on, and then like on. Right, so we'll dip the nose, hit that master caution, dip the nose as much as we can, 10 to 11 degrees angle of attack. As you can see in the HUD, we're about 11 degrees. So we're gaining some airspeed. That's generally okay. That's actually a good thing, because we need to make sure that we are like making the runway. So if you go back out here, that was so weird, that bug. That was weird. That bug before. Maybe we had that bug. Right, so we're a bit fast, but it's okay because we're getting down to the runway. So we're getting a bit fast here, so I'm going to hit the speed rigs out just a little bit. Alright, so gear out. We're going to make this. We're landing fast, but we're going to make it at least. So now 6 degrees. We don't exactly have an AOA we can use, but we're going to make this. So now we flare. Just like that. Right.
Cowboy 1-1.
And just
Palermo.
lower the...
Time to get a clearance before landing.
hit the brakes. We made it. Nice. It's kind of a hard thing to teach, but basically, like, what you need to do is just kind of, and the reason I was able to do that is because, like, it's really something you need experience with. You just need to practice with. You need to make sure you have airspeed, and put the gear down the last resort. Oh wait, I don't have brakes. My brakes failed. I don't have brakes. Did I lose? I lost all hydraulics. Look, I don't have brakes. I just coast to a stop now. I lost all my brakes. Is my EPU done? My EPU should be providing brakes. Hydraulics for brakes. That's weird. EPU fuel. See, EPU fuel is going down. Damn. Oh, and I kept it on count 3. God damn it. But yeah, we did it. So let me do it one more time, but landing on the other runway, just so you can do both.
Bingo. Altitude.
Alright, so out of fuel. First thing we do is punch off those bags. So press. Alright, bags off. On, and then like on. So we punch the bags off. So now I'm just gonna just go this way. So I'm gonna turn right because I want to land on the right runway. And we're getting some airspeed. That's okay. We want airspeed, because we don't want to get below 200 knots, especially with the gear up. So we just keep Another thing we can do is just keep the flight path marker a little bit below the threshold of the runway. And the reason I would want to do that is because if I put it on the runway, it might actually like lose. So like if I put the flight path marker on the threshold of the runway, I might lose airspeed that I could, keep. So having it a little bit below the threshold of the runway, below the runway itself, can help, keep your airspeed up. See, we're 285, 286 knots now. So we are much safer right now because we have the airspeed. We could just glide down. Like that. Right, so I'm going to put the speed brakes out because we're a bit fast. Alright, we're almost 200 knots, so let me get out, speed brakes back in. We are actually really fast here, but we'll still make it. Just keep it down, and then flight path marker up. We'll still make it. We should anyway. We might land on the threshold. Alright, so flare. Just like that. Flare. Alright, we did it. We bounced. But we still did it.
1-1. Palermo. Tower. Next time get a clearance before landing.
Alright. Try to brake as much as I can. Just pump the brakes. There we go. And I lost my brakes. Lost my brakes again, so we're just going to coast to a stop. Yeah. I literally lost my brakes. I can't do anything. See? Like I'm just coasting to a stop. Yeah. No. We did it though. We did it. And sometimes it's best to, if you can, like kind of try to taxi off to like the grass or like a taxiway if you can. That way you can just get off the runway. You might be blocking a taxiway, but at least you're blocking the runway, So yeah, this is a tough thing to get a handle of. Like you could tell I was rusty because the first time I crashed, I haven't done this in I haven't had to deal with a flameout landing in well over a decade. So obviously I'm super rusty, but that's the basic concept. You want to have altitude and you want to have airspeed. Your airspeed is your friend because your airspeed and your altitude is your friend. They are both about the same. I would say they're both about the same importance. Although altitude is more important than airspeed in many ways. Because if you have altitude, you can gain airspeed. But if you don't have altitude, dipping the nose is not going to do anything really, because you'll be gaining airspeed, but you'll also be probably going to crash if you're really low. So yeah. So we did that. So yeah, that's all for this part, guys. That's all for mission 11, Flameout landing. Next up will be navigation and steer points. So mission 12, which is the last mission of chapter 3. And then after that, I'll tell you in the next video, but basically what I'm going to do is after mission 12, I'm going to kind of skip to the air-to-air refueling mission, as far as, you know, which video I'm gonna do next, because I don't really want to spoil myself with the weapons until last. But as far as like how it's laid out in the playlist, the YouTube playlist, I will have it in order. So, you know, although like I will be, although the next mission after, like after the first mission of, so like, although after next mission, so the last mission of chapter 3, after the last mission of chapter 3, which is the next mission, after that mission, although I'm going to skip, you know, myself, I'm going to skip the, you know, weapons and stuff. I'm going to, although I'm going to skip that myself, I will have the videos up in order. So that's what I want to say. So, yep, that's all for this part, guys. We made it. So if you liked it, smash the button like a badass. Leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time. Farewell.